Get started. Let's stand for a pledge. Ms. Johnson, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's pause for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Postpone the ball game. So we're not missing the ball game. Welcome to our monthly meeting. We're here to accomplish the business of schools for the sake of our students. We do want to hear from our citizens, and there's time for public comment prior to the action items on the agenda. We ask that speakers identify themselves and their home district. We also ask that your comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to provide equity to all speakers and to ensure our meeting is reasonable in length. If you have more information that can be summarized in 3 minutes, please leave behind materials for the board's review. The moderator will ask you to conclude your remarks as the time has elapsed. If you have questions during the session, you may ask for clarification from your school board member or a school administrator after the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Is there a motion concerning the adoption of the agenda for this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to amend it, to amend the agenda to move the personnel section 3.3 to the end of the meeting, because that will be after our closed session, and that's 11.2.
3.3 moves to 11.2.
Right.
And we would vote on the personnel report at that time.
Right.
So that's your motion.
That's my motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as modified, and a second. All in favor, let know by saying aye. Aye. Votes no. Mr. Warrior, thank you, Mr. Groves. Donations.
I have several to report. The first one is from Franklin Garcia, donated $150 to purchase school lunches for students in need. The Cliff Miller and family donated $1,200 for the athletic department in memory of Eddie Jenkins. The Rappahannock Clergy Association provided lunch for all the staff on September the 27th. Richard and Judy Ridinger donated 3 telescopes to the science department at the high school. Thomas and Holly Sis donated $3,258.15 for the end of the year football banquet. And TD and TD Unlimited donated $100 to purchase school lunches for students in need. And the Trinity Church donated flash drives for the students.
Great. Thank you. Is there a motion concerning the minutes of September 12th board meeting?
Move the minutes be adopted.
We have a motion, the minutes be adopted. A second?
Second.
A second. We have a second, Ms. Johnson. Motion, Mr. Groves. Any comments or questions or corrections?
I didn't see one error.
No error.
That's it. And you have,
All in favor, aye? Aye. Those no? So ordered. Ms. Johnson, verification of the bills.
the bills have been reviewed and approved, and the use of percentages in line. So they're here for approval and payment.
Thank you. The consent agenda, is there a motion concerning the consent agenda? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Johnson, is there a second? We have a second from Ms. Meyer. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? So ordered. Moving to reports of superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. I'd like to start with a special recognition. We have a special guest with us tonight. Mr. Chairman, if you would join me at the podium for this. Good evening. And I'd also ask Mr. Mike Tupper, who's our Director of Student Support Services, to come up too. Cool. All right, so as if being a public school bus driver is not hard enough, okay, you've got maybe 70 loud children behind you, precious cargo, no doubt, but I know I have a very hard time just managing my 3 children in the back seat myself. So that's probably the most difficult and most, just sacred job we have, because those bus drivers can change the whole day for a student just with their interaction from the first moment that child gets on the bus. They set the tone. Now add to that a serious situation, maybe traumatic, that could happen on a bus route that you don't anticipate. Okay, you have all this going on, you have megatons of a big yellow school bus to direct on the road while something's going on, and you also have to maintain your cool, keep everybody calm, and do the right thing. And that's exactly what Jessica Wines did last month on a pretty serious bus incident that could have been more severe had she not went back to her training, quick thinking, just the amazing response that she had. So Jessica, I'm going to ask that you come up here for a minute, please. Now, I was able to watch this video of the situation that happened, and I could not believe how amazing you were, madam, because I don't know that I could have done anything any different or done as well as you did. To keep your cool, there were other students on the bus. She kept them very calm. You even said to them at one point, "Just stay back there, honey. Don't worry, I got it." They're very calm. I'm like, what just happened? Maintaining control, radioing for help. The police were there. It was incredible. How did you do that? So for that reason, we do want to present with a Heroism Award. Okay, and we have an award for you that we had specially made that says the Heroism Award presented to Jessica Wines in recognition of your outstanding efforts on September 11th, 2017, in which you used your experience, training, and communication skills to respond quickly and effectively to ensure the safety of all students. We've got a cute little panther there, because that's what panthers are about, right? We're courageous and we're amazing, so that is for you. Thank you so much.
I just want to say that Jessica, obviously always, she was wondering whether she did everything right, and I have to say she did everything. I said her plan was to keep driving that bus until somebody told her to stop, and she did exactly that. She had the route already worked out in her mind, and you did everything right. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I have another report we're going to move to. That's the 8th grade Academy report. And I'm going to ask our high school guidance counselor, Ms. Danny Pond, and our 4-H coordinator, Jenny Capson, come on up and present. And I will work on pulling this up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danny Pond. I'm one of the school counselors and the 8th grade counselor in Pacific. And I'm Jenny Casa, the 4-H coordinator. And we're here to tell you about a program that we put together last year. And we have a video to eventually show you, and we hope that you enjoy seeing that. So Danny and I have been working together for a few years to put together some programs at the high school. One is a financial management program. We've done some life skill workshops. We did senior interviews for the seniors. And we thought, there's a real need to do some programming with the 8th graders. So we got together and we thought about what that would look like. And we thought, okay, well, the foundation of that would be to have some peer mentors. 8th grade is a hard year. 8th graders here are coming from being the top of the school, the elementary school, to suddenly they're back down on the bottom. Lots of changes are going on with them in every way, emotionally, physically, trying to figure out where they fit in. So we thought, what would really help them would be to have some peer mentors, to be there for them throughout the year that they can go to for support. for guidance, for feedback, just to give them a pat on the back when they need it. So we put together a program called the 8th Grade Academy, and we started last year. We were lucky enough to get some funding through the PATH Foundation. We also got some money from Headwaters, which kind of kicked us off and started the whole program. And then we also, I have to say, we also did get some funding from the Claudia Mitchell Fund in order to get some iPads, which helped us make these videos that you're going to see in just a minute. We had a wonderful, wonderful year. So what happened was the 8th graders were paired with juniors and seniors. So each junior and senior was given either 1 or 2 8th graders. And the idea is that the 8th graders check in with the juniors and seniors, or vice versa, at least once a week. And then once a month, the peer mentors and the mentees get together for a big event. We do something once a month, big and bad and bold, and it's a lot of fun. We check in about once a week or once every other week with the peer mentors just to see how things are going and to talk to them about what's coming up, get their ideas so that they're invested in this program as well. We had a big overnight program last year. We had a ball. We really had a whole lot of fun. So we want to show you a little bit about the 8th Grade Academy from last year, and then talk to you about what we're doing this year. This video was done by a professional filmographer paid for through the PATH Foundation.
Walk through the high school, everybody's looking at me. Go to my locker, I'm really happy. Hey, 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 okay, I gotta get to class now. Backpack on my back, backpack on my back, backpack on my backpack on my backpack on my back. The bell rings, everybody screams, hey, lunchtime, hey, lunchtime. Don't be late for class, don't be late for class, don't be late for class. Make friends, make friends, hey! 8th grade, hey! It's fun, hey! In the dugout, I need 2 runners, 1 kicker, outfield.
Their social network is mixed up. Their support system that they're comfortable and used to at the elementary school is gone. And suddenly they have all this independence and responsibility that they're just not used to. Their bodies are changing, their emotions are going crazy. They don't really know how to handle certain situations. They need support, but they might not know how to ask for support or think that they want it. What's their support? So it can be a little hard to hear for kids. This is our trial year. We're pioneers here in Rappahannock County anyway, seeing what we can do with this and learning as we go. We just really sat down and looked at what our population of students have difficulty in that transition and what support can we provide for them.
Maybe you wanted to ask your mentor for advice.
The boy that I had was really shy. I started talking to him and we talked a lot. I made him little notes on his lockers and he plays basketball just like I do. And I feel like I've kind of gotten to open up a little bit more. And I'm really glad because I try to help him with things. he's kind of like, he comes to me all the time, and like when he needs help, he's like, hey, Dana, can you help me with this, or can you help me with my math test that's coming up? I'm like, okay, sure.
I just like helping kids, and like helping them if they like don't belong somewhere. I want them to like fit in and like be different.
To have the support of kids who are just that much older than they are, that much more mature, who've been there not so long ago, to come and help them through this time, it's like a breath of air for these kids. It's the help that they need, the support that they need.
Basically, I get along with everyone in the school, so I figured I could do this. I already talked to a lot of the younger kids and help them out, so I figured it'd be good to, get some credits for doing the peer mentor program.
Because I wasn't sure how to balance time between sports and school. They pretty much said all you have to do is practice harder, but when you get home, don't let this distraction. Just do your homework straight off, do your work, then you can do your thing.
It is a lot harder to bully someone who you have met and had lunch with and shared pizza and mentored. It's to me, it's almost impossible to be able to do that. So going back to building relationships, really, I think that helps to prevent a lot of the negative types of behaviors that we just don't want to see in our schools or in our community.
My son is really shy and reserved and quiet, and now I'm seeing a more confident son, and he wants to stay after school and go to football games and go to dances and participate.
High school's about as smooth as this. Well, if your mentors help me get through it, or give you good advice, they make 8th grade great!
For the first time in a long time, we have less failure rates. We have less what I call teenage drama in that population. We have better attendance. And, I'd like to think that it's because of this program.
I want kids to feel like this is their second home. You can't do that unless you have relationships throughout the building. So we'll look at what we've done this year and we'll improve on it. And we'll probably push it on down into the elementary school and try to connect even sooner.
What's the best part of your mentoring?
So as you can see, we did a lot of fun things, and we collected data all throughout the year from the students, from the peer mentors, from parents, and then of course we compared the performance of that 8th grade class to the class before it, just to see what the success of the program was, if it was measurable, and then how could we make it better. One of the other things that we did is started a step-up day, and that's when we welcome the 7th grade class that's coming to the high school and get them oriented with the school during this spring. And the last 2 years we decided to, it was usually me and Mr. Tucker or the principal at the time welcoming the kids and talking and blah, blah, blah. This year, or the last year, we decided to turn it over to the mentors completely and let them run the show. Of course, I gave them guidance and so forth, but I was like, it's much more impactful to hear it from their peers than it is from me or the principal. So we turned it over to them, and And it was wonderful. The kids were so excited. But we had the students generate a video on their own with the help of Dee Dee Saluga to present to these 7th graders. So this video here is what we call our step up video, and this is what the rising 8th graders are introduced to when they come, about the 8th grade come.
Don't be like this today, be on time in class.
Are the seniors gonna be mean to me?
We're not that bad.
Am I gonna be able to be shoved inside the locker? You can't fit! A bad thing. Eighth grade candy! Do you think 8th grade is a
And you can hang tight and just promise you're going to sit with your mentor and we're going to be having a good time. I need help, like on the math or something, so help me. I asked her just how to balance her sports and education at the same time.
Yeah, just kind of talk to her as one that's facing the growth and just really never talk to her again. It's kind of stressful then.
Walked in the high school, everybody's looking at me. Go to my locker, I'm really happy. Hey, 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 okay, I gotta get to class now. Backpack on my back, backpack on my back, backpack on my backpack on my backpack on my back. The bell rings, everybody screams, hey!
So you can see how much fun we had, and like I said, we gave the students the iPads, and we said, make something with it. So that they produced a lot of that. So that was neat.
Well, and the program we found to be very successful for 8th graders, but not just for 8th graders. The kids that are the juniors and seniors who are the peer mentors loved it. Loved it more than they even thought they would love it. And so you're going to hear from Julia Estes in a second here talking about how much she enjoyed it. But really, this whole program helps everybody. It's the 8th graders, it's the juniors, it's the seniors, it's the school, and then really it's the community as a whole. It's been a really wonderful program. So here's Julia talking about the peer mentor perspective.
So we have Julia Estes on the left and Jessica Gore on the right, and they're here today to tell us about the peer mentor program.
Okay, so this is Juan talking about the peer mentor program before we went out to all come together. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, it sounds like, it sounds fun, but it also sounds kind of, I don't know how the 8th graders would take it. And just doing it this year and doing all the activities, and especially the overnight, it's been honestly so much fun, and so much more fun than I thought it was going to be.
I guess I would say that, first you think, what can you have in common with someone who is 5 years younger than you? But you can actually have a lot of things in common, and it's just very rewarding to help someone younger than you go through the same problems, and even I'm just glad to know that there's someone who
And they had one more thing to add, which is the very last video.
Right, Julia Estes back again. You can tell you a little more because she can't do it in the video.
There's just one thing that is really important to me, just really really look up to you and like they consider you a role model. And even like the things that you don't notice like by yourself, they point out and they're like, like they just idolize all of those older kids. And I think that's why it's also so important to be a mentor, because you don't know how much of a difference you actually do make in their life at school. And we do so much learning here in college class and things. I actually like.
And we actually cried too. I'm like, right now. I can't even watch her say that. We watched these videos that these students made without our direction, and we were texting and crying and like idiots. Just because it worked. I mean, it's really like we didn't know it was going to make this. But it was really great, and we were very fortunate. We were worried about being able to sustain this program this year, and we wrote another grant we called it the Pride Grant, and we put the 8th grade academy under that umbrella so that we could continue the funding for it this year. We're starting to think about next year because we do see the value in this program. Our kids are seeing the value, parents are seeing the value. I can't tell you how many 8th graders were coming, when are we going to call it our mentors? When are we going to do that? When are we going to do it? And parents even asking me, emailing me over the summer, but is every 8th grader going to get a mentor? And just the excitement in the community was good. So we started this year. We're already having fun, and but we're concerned about the future. So that's why we're presenting here tonight. We're hoping for any ideas or suggestions for sustainability so we can continue the program. Are there any questions?
Funding is our biggest concern, really. I mean, because this really was costly, in our minds anyway. In my little world, we're used to getting so little money. We got $16,000 the first year, $22,000 this year to do a bigger program this year, with probably almost double the kids participating in some of the things. Like the overnight program, kids weren't really sure what they would think about it, so we had maybe 40 kids participate last year. Because it took off so big and wonderfully, it was such a hit that we think we're going to have a lot of kids. So we need that funding. So in order to continue it as it is happened now last year and this year, we need help. We need some guidance. We need some direction in where to find funding. So at any time you want to talk about it, we'd be open to hearing your suggestions and ideas.
So a sustainable, so you're looking to sustain something that's in the code, right?
Yes.
Well,
Hey, it's interesting. So the drama that left the 8th grade went to the front office because you guys are crying about it.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. We'll go to Williamsburg in November, and you'll see school divisions that have done really neat things like this be presented. And so that's one of the thoughts I'm having on watching this is how do you tell other school divisions about something like this? It's been very successful for the student, right? The performance, the discipline issues, closing gaps like that.
This is my 17th year working with 8th graders in this division alone. And every year, I knew it was a transition year. I knew it was difficult, and we would put in little things each year to try to support them, and it just didn't work. And it wasn't until I had the opportunity to do a little work at the elementary school with 6th and 7th graders that the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how different it was in that community, and rightfully so, compared to our community when they left. And I was like, no wonder these little band-aids and supports that we've been putting in hasn't worked. And that's when I said to Jenny, Jenny, we gotta come up with something. And this is what we came up with, and this is what we needed all along.
Right, so most school divisions have a middle school,
Exactly.
right? And so that eases that, although it's still there, it eases the transition.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
this
there's
is really a byproduct of how we're set up.
I mean, they
Makes it
go
harder.
from walking to lunch in a single file line in 7th grade, and then they come here and they get to drop off their backpacks and go to lunch and sit outside and sit at any table and sit, anywhere and hang out with friends of all ages. And if they don't, they can go to the bathroom by themselves. And it's not in any, I'm not placing blame or anything. It's just very, very, very different, and it's a lot of freedom, a lot of independence very quickly, and I just I couldn't grasp it until I started working there, and I had to walk students back to their class to drop them off. I couldn't say, oh, thanks for seeing me today, and okay, go to class. I had to take the seventh grader back to their room, and I'm not used to that up here, and I was like, okay, now, but I get it. I get why when they get up here, it's like, whoa, they're just having a good old time, and the academics and everything go to the wayside because I'm having a good time, and I'm enjoying this freedom, and that's where this plan and this program and everything came from. So, and if you want to take this to Williamsburg, more power to you.
It's probably a little late.
It's too late this year. Well, I tell you, it would be a good, what they call their session. It would be a really great session to think about for next year. But one of the things that you've done that is so foreign to most systems, my systems, my world was you kept the 8th graders away from the seniors. You didn't interact with anybody that was older. You didn't, and the parents didn't want you to interact with anybody older. And what you've done is kind of the antithesis of that, and made all this stuff work. And it's going to help these juniors and seniors when it comes time when they go to college or when they go to work. They're going to volunteer in the system or in the society somewhere doing this kind of thing. So it's a build.
It is. It's a win-win for lots of individuals.
Yeah, and it's totally against the norm, which is kind of cool too.
And
so congratulations to Mike.
Thank you. And the flex period, I throw that in there because we couldn't do this without that flex period. In fact, Jenny and I, all the programming that you mentioned that we did prior to this was we could do it because of that flex period. So, we're very much appreciative of
My
that
hope
time.
is the flex period expands and becomes even bigger and better.
So we couldn't do it without that non-instructional time. So we're very appreciative of that.
And that's the feedback we're getting from the 8th graders and the juniors and seniors, is we just want more. We just want more. We just want more.
Well,
That's great.
it's important that they have their own little unit.
Yeah.
But they've got to get out of there with some controls too.
Well, thank you for
Thank you
listening
very
to
much.
us today. Appreciate it. Very appreciate it.
Good work.
This is such a big part of what we're trying to do this year in cultivating this school community and a culture of cohesiveness where there's openness and kids feel welcome and open to come to even kids or adults when things are bothering them. And this is such an important part to make sure you have a structured safeguard in place for that. So that's what they've done, and that's incredible because that's going to really prevent a lot of things that could escalate into bigger things later. So that's awesome. Thank you, ladies. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask our food service director and nutrition specialist, Amanda Grove, to come up. And I know this is Mr. Mill's favorite time where we tell you about the meal prices we can do nothing about.
That we will agree on.
Yes.
But we must be briefed.
So yeah, the past two acts are a little hard to follow. But we heard back from the state, and there is an average price minimum that we weren't meeting based on how many lunches out of these categories. So we did raise the adult lunch price to $3.50, which brought us to the minimum that we needed. We'd already started the school year, so I didn't want to change student prices. So staff were made aware of this change before it went into effect, and then as well as changing our menus and signage before it went into effect. Any questions?
It's in effect now.
Correct, yeah.
Those lunches are awesome. Yeah, $3.50 is so worth it. I got them today.
Yeah.
The chicken Alfredo today was really good.
Thank you.
So we have to vote on that. Yes or no?
You do not.
We
It's
do
just
not.
an-
Oh, at least one.
Yeah.
David, thanks for the.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, and now I would ask Assistant Superintendent Carol Johnson to come to the podium and tell you about some new funding available to us this year.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's not often that I get to come before you with something from the federal government that I can actually say that I'm excited about. And this is one of those times, this is me excited about a grant coming from the federal government. This is a Title IV grant, and when we're working with the school division, I used a puzzle piece theme here for my PowerPoint this evening because we've got lots of different pieces that we try to fit together into the educational puzzle. And a lot of them are not things that are always quite as fun to work with because they have mandates and they have regulations that go with them. Fortunately, this Title IV grant came to us from the Every Student Succeeds Act from 2015. Its formal title is the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant. And it had three purposes that were outlined. The first being to provide a well-rounded education for students. The second goal was to improve school conditions for learning. And the third was to improve the use of technology in order to improve the academic achievement of students. So moving on to the next slide, kind of the background for this and sort of the rationale for how we were going to divvy out these funds. Last spring, of course, we're all aware that there was a threat that was discovered at our high school, and that was thwarted. Processing of that event led us to identify two areas of need. The first being increased school security, which we would address through a safety grant, local funds, lots of investigation through our school crisis team. So we feel like we're on a good track there. The second piece of the puzzle that was identified was supporting and training staff to identify mental health needs of our students, to become aware of students who may have those needs who haven't been on our radar in the past. We also wanted to address students' responsibility to their school community. We were fortunate last spring that we had a student who stepped up to the challenge, accepted that responsibility, but we want to be sure that all of our students are confident to be able to do that. So further rationale for the grant, the need was identified in the area of safe and healthy schools. So we had three choices as to where we could ask for funding in this grant. So we chose the area of safe and healthy schools. This year, in response to our student discipline committee team meetings, as well as in response to some of our conversations from last spring, we have a mental health innovation team made up of our guidance counselors that has started meeting. And counseling was an area that they identified for need. Our discipline committee team over the summer also began exploring restorative justice practices as an area that may be helpful for our students. Parent interest has also been expressed to provide mindfulness training for our staff. And these goals support overall the profile of a Virginia graduate, as well as our goals in our comprehensive plan, which was adopted last school year. So moving on to the specific activities that are proposed for the funds for this grant, which was a total of $10,000. The first was counseling for students. Several years ago, I think it was 2010, we had a similar Title IV grant that was given to school divisions, and it was in the area of at-risk students and drug-free schools. And so we had those funds in place for counseling sessions back in 2010. But of course, that was one of the grants that went away, so we haven't had that for a while. So we'd like to reinstitute counseling services for students for up to 6 sessions. I don't know that people realize what a need the counseling services that are in our county. We have special education services of counseling available for students who have an IEP. We also have therapeutic day treatment services that are available for students who are Medicaid eligible. So we are able to serve some of our student population, but that doesn't meet all of the needs of our children. There are specific crises that come up in adolescent lives. There are sometimes things that are going on in the home environment that put a student in a state of crisis. And to have a student go for counseling isn't quite as easy as taking the child to the doctor. You would think that it would be. However, if you're trying to get your child into counseling services, one of the things we recommend is that you go to the Community Services Board for what they call a rapid intake. Very frustrating process for parents. You need to get there early in the morning. If you get there at 8:30, hopefully you can be seen on, I think it's 3 specific days of the week. And once you have gone through that intake, it can take several weeks or even months to actually get in to see a counselor. And by then, either the crisis has resolved itself or things have gotten worse. So we are very excited to be able to offer this to those students who are in crisis in a more immediate and timely fashion. We've also identified a need of counseling support for staff. This support would take a couple of prongs. One is to help our staff to become more aware of students' mental health needs. There's mental health first aid training that our staff participated in several years ago. We'd like to offer that training to teachers who are new to us, who have not been through it before. Also offer a refresher for teachers who would like to participate. We have begun trauma-informed training for our teachers earlier this fall, so we'd like to continue with that for staff. We've also found a need for staff to have support themselves in response to some of the safety drills and trainings that we're going to need to be doing now in order to help to make our school and facilities more safe and secure. So we want to be able to offer that kind of processing support for our staff after what could be stressful training events. Third, we're looking for restorative justice training materials. Right now, we have a group of teachers who are getting started with this topic, and we want to be able to provide them with top-notch training materials so that they know which direction to go in with these restorative practices. Fourth is mindfulness training for teachers. This one I'm just getting into. We had a parent who kind of stepped forward who's working with another agency in the county who is training teachers at the Child Care and Learning Center on mindfulness strategies, who has volunteered to come in and help us with that. So this is a topic that kind of helps teachers to explore mindfulness activities, being able to understand their own feelings and emotions so that they can take that forward with their students. Then we were also looking at teacher stipends for team leaders for groups like the restorative justice training. We've also had a request from our mental health innovators for a social skills training program that would help some of our younger students with those basic social skills that many of our children are no longer actually receiving because they're on their phones and they're on their iPads. So a little bit of extra social emphasis there. And finally, materials and supplies, follow-up surveys, questionnaires that are going to help us to be able to measure the effectiveness of these activities, along with, we may tie this in with the Obeus bullying program, follow-up questionnaires and surveys to that program. So the budget breakdown, $10,000 does go pretty quickly. The stipends would be $1,000. Contracted services for counseling and the social skills, $4,000. Professional development for the staff, $2,000. Materials and supplies, $3,000. So future pieces to the puzzle. This is kind of helping us to meet some needs that we've identified, that we're kind of uncovering as we move forward. We have an opportunity to apply for a Lights grant within the next couple of days that we will be sure to be on time for that. We would like to put in a request for a children's yoga program. We feel that that ties in very well with our Commit to Be Fit initiative, keeping bodies healthy, but it also works with individuals on the mindfulness, thinking, sitting, reflecting on their behaviors, and I guess more self-actualization, where they want the kind of person that they want to be. We also have a parent who has been very interested in volunteering either funds or assistance in helping us to put together a sensory gym that would assist students in self-calming activities along with that awareness of self, and thinking even bigger, how could we change our in-school suspension room from a place that is punitive or a consequence to a place where students mindfully reflect on their behavior and come out with strategies to be restored to their community. So we have several pieces there that some of our wonderful community groups may want to help us with in the near future. So again, the Title IV proposal is a start to us. We feel very fortunate that we've had an opportunity to learn from our past and move forward in a positive direction, looking at strategies that are going to help our students and our school to be not only physically safe, but mentally and emotionally safe as well. Thank you very much, and I have a copy of that grant for the board's approval, should you so desire.
Questions? Lots of thought.
Meditation.
Good work. Thank you very much.
All right, and speaking of grants, I have two updates to give you on the recent approval of our school security grant and our Commit to Be Fit continuation grant. So we knew these were probably coming. The security grant, we never really know how much they're going to give us and if they'll approve it at all. And we have received it over the course of the last several years. Click and talk at the same time. So this year's amount was $38,761, which is pretty awesome. That's $10,000 over last year's grant, which usually once you're a recipient of a grant, you probably expect to lose some eligibility points and not be so high in the category. So we were able to secure that money. What this supports are our digital key badge lock systems and security cards, our card readers at the doors, additional cameras in areas of vulnerability. We are always assessing that and making sure those digital real-time media with our lighting and visibility and our cameras are working. That's very important for school security, and it has helped us so much with investigations of different things that happen and discipline procedures and things because we have eyes everywhere. It's pretty nice. Rekeying door locks, that's something that we usually battle with when there's keys outstanding and we have to rekey some areas. We are looking at safety classroom barricade devices for our doors that open out, because part of our new safety procedures in Alice training is to barricade in a lockdown situation, but if your door opens out, the barricade's not going to do too much, right? So we have found some devices that will help implement that procedure pretty quickly.
Secure against the jam, right?
Right, exactly right. It's 4 bolts and you put a little thing in and it's that quick. So it's very simple. So that's what we're looking at for this. Motion sensor emergency lighting in the interior, among some other things. So that's what we've asked for in this grant. Over the course of 4 years, you can see our progression. You know me and my trend lines. So there it is. So we've done pretty well. And we've come really far in our security procedures. I know the sheriff's office has told us that they I've seen it much more secure this year more than others, and just people are following procedures, and our doors are secure, and that's such a hard balance because we want to be so open and welcoming and things, but you see it every day, what's out there, and we do have volatile situations even in this county that we just have to be aware of and not risk the safety of our students too. So with that, I thank Sheriff Connie Compton and the Sheriff's Office. We have a very strong partnership with the Sheriff's Department, and thank goodness, because they work diligently with us and the crisis management team to consistently evaluate our procedures and make sure we're on top of things. They test us consistently on making sure we've got that, and I want that, because that's how we remain secure and vigilant. So we thank them very much. Any questions about security grant?
It's amazing. It's 3 times the amount that we started out with, like 4 years ago.
Yes.
So amazing.
I'm very excited.
That comes from the state.
This is a state grant funneled through some federal funds for school security, yes. But it's directly to the state it's a reimbursement grant, as most of ours are anyway in school divisions. And then our C2BF, our continuation of our Commit to Be Fit program. We're very excited. We, in fact, just received the official check in the mail today. And what this is, of course, is our 3-pronged approach. Everybody hears a lot about Commit to Be Fit. I was able to attend a Foothills Forum meeting with the Rap News media about the health crisis that we have right here in Rappahannock County and in rural communities across the nation. And it is a real concern. Accessibility of amenities and health care, all of those things. So the Commit to Be Fit program was hoping to cultivate a community culture vested for health and wellness of the community. So that entails school nutrition, which is a big concern across the nation as well. Kinesthetic movement in the classroom, which in high stakes realm and testing, we've driven a lot of content and maybe lost sight of the holistic learning approach to movement is good for the brain, and we need that too. And also community wellness. There wasn't a lot of amenities out there for the community to partake in fitness classes and workshops and things and raise awareness about what we were doing.
Have we given any thought to open gyms for the community?
Open gyms, that could be.
Wednesday night basketball for whoever wants to come. It's a thought. I've seen it in other small settings. And, it turns out to be a vocal point.
That could be definitely something we add. Our process for planning is pretty extensive with it, and those are ideas that we always take from the people who sign up and our members and what they want. We really cater it to who signs up.
But you might get more people signing up.
True. We got that feedback last year in our evaluation. The men especially wanted more sports related, type things to participate in. So we put that in place this year and have some plans for more sports related activities.
I read one where it was a Wednesday night dodgeball. And you wouldn't believe the number of adults that came out for Wednesday night dodgeball. And they just used Nerf balls, and just had a ball, and you work up the sweat.
Fantastic.
Anyway.
So we have a lot of planning in place. So this grant will cover us the goals that we have to continue on, and we're expanding. So that grant amount is $164,500 to get us till next year. We also received $149,000 to get us from July to October. We do have personnel that's included in this grant. We have wellness integration specialists, a wellness community coordinator, our food service and nutrition specialists are all included as that. That's a big chunk when you're talking to people to make this kind of thing happen. But then we also, purchase things for the cafeteria, equipment. We are going to reveal a big surprise at the elementary school soon, so I won't go into that too much about what we're doing there. And the high school now has a fitness room where we conduct a lot of our fitness activities and classes. And also to date, over 370, I believe we're at now, right, Mandy? 370 workshops, free to the community. You get a sampling of different things. Our idea is not to, have you ingrain one thing that you do all the time, but provide a sampling of an array of things so you find your niche and what you want to participate in the workshops, raise awareness of your own health and wellness. We do regular check-ins to make you aware personally of what you're doing and the impact you're having, but not just your weight. Get away from the scale. It's inches, it's blood pressure. All those things are also important. your steps. I see you checking yours, Mr. Grove. Being aware of those things. So that's what we're continuing.
The heart rate's 62.
Ooh.
Very good.
All right. I'm not going to tell you what I'm at today. It's a morning today. I've been sitting a lot. But yeah, so we're raising awareness. The culture is changing this year. Big emphasis from staff. I know at the elementary, our principal is completely 100% on board and has established teams of their own, and they're all competing and they're very competitive. Oh my goodness. It's incredible. So, yes, we're very excited for the work that we're doing, and we hope it will continue. It's part of the health priority in the PATH Foundation now, so that pretty much means we reevaluate every year, and it's indefinite. So we're very pleased with that. Any questions? Oh, yes. Mr. Mills, your other favorite policy that we have to bring up every year.
Yeah, that one.
This is the one where I have to certify.
read this?
And we have to record in the minutes that it was publicly reviewed. So I'm going to put it up on the screen here. And this SIPA policy is our Children's Internet Protection Act policy. So it is the acceptable computer use policy that we have has to be publicly read, and we've posted it beforehand, but here it is. So give me a moment to review.
I was objecting to it being presented or reviewed annually. I was objecting to it being read to. So I'll tolerate it again if that's what I have to do.
No, it's up here. We're going to record in the minutes that it was publicly read. So here it is. We're publicly reading it in yellow. That's just for compliance, and that seems fine. I don't see anything that says I actually have to physically read it at to. I know you can read.
Right.
It's fine. Is that okay?
It is okay.
I hope you don't mind. And this is what gets sent home every year, and all the students have to sign it before they have any access to our network. It's the same one. Publicly read it?
Publicly read
I've
this.
read it. Wonderful.
And there's no changes in this from last year.
No, sir, I do not.
I don't see any.
If there are, you'll see those in your policy updates that you will have to approve.
Have to read those too.
That was last month.
I hope so.
No, I just read
Right.
All right, and if there's no other questions, I'll go to the next item, which is a calendar modification. We have a regular scheduled training happening on October 25th, and it is related to our safety procedures and the ALICE training, which is an active shooter training. It's pretty intense. We've already conducted it at the high school, and what they have told us, we had a debrief meeting with the high school, very, very well received, but some concerns and suggestions to make it better. And what they said was to have a full day where you do it in the morning and also have supports in the afternoon to help debrief and talk more about it and put in place. They said it was pretty tough in the time constraint and having a half day to get everything done. And also we have a lot of high school people that want to come to the elementary one too and do it again and also be there to help with the elementary training. So what I'm proposing here is that on October 25th, which is scheduled to be a half day for students, is to make it a full day for staff development so that we can just make sure we have all those pieces in place. We can take more time and assess it. And we do have a full day in February, but that's a long time to wait to implement some of the things we need to now. So I didn't want to put it off until the February day. We could, but it's a half day right now. We could look at weather leading up to that and if we had to do the half day. But for
What's that
instruction,
do to our total?
you're fine because we built down. We built up 7 days, so you're still fine.
Well, we gave back 6 last year.
You did.
So my point is, we have to remember that we just took this day away.
Of course, and reassess during weather times and things, and if we need that instruction, of course, we could change the February day later. Absolutely. So that's what I'm proposing. Any questions?
That's the only change?
That's all. Full days.
We're going to notify parents how.
And how does the notification?
How we notifying people?
once we know that this is fine, we'll put everything out there. We now have our PR person who's wonderful at getting all our communications out, so we'll do an alert call, which we have tweaked and worked out all the bugs we think, so.
You got the robocall squared away?
We do have it, but it won't be the robot voice, it'll be Carol Johnson's lovely voice, which we love so much better. She's the best. I love that. And we also have our Facebook, social media, and we'll put that out there, so it gets, make sure we get all the places. Yes, on the website. Front page, absolutely. Don't worry, they will tell you.
Kids, that's something the kids will take home.
Oh, yeah, they will. And guess what, Mom? You're stuck with me all day. And that concludes the superintendent report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to reports of headquarters representative, Ms. Meyer.
Yes, we do. The board discussed Lord Fairfax career coach with Mrs. Grimsley and the professional enrichment opportunity for teachers, in other words, where we get some money. And the board discussed funding a day trip for Next Step to bring students to colleges to visit, as well as several educational enrichment plans, in other words, to help out. And then finally, much to everybody's surprise, they gave the school a gift of the Taste of Rappahannock logo, the G-Clay from the Taste of Rappahannock with this year's cover picture. So I guess you have it in school.
It is hung up in the hallway, matted and framed, and it's beautiful.
That was very nice.
It was so nice.
Much improved relationship.
Kind of good, huh?
Yeah. That's it.
MVGS, Mr. Brewer.
Well, our superintendent's report, I was cutting apples that morning, and that took priority to the Mountain Vista Governor's School.
And I'm so glad you did, because that apple butter is awesome.
It is
The
good
Lions
apple
Club
butter
made
this
that
year.
thing.
Actually, we're all sold out.
It was fantastic.
We sold out in 2 weeks, which has never happened before. The word got out the first week, and then people started buying it by the case.
So at Mount Vista's annual meeting, this was a joint governing board and academic advisory board meeting. It's the beginning year meeting where they do the end of year report from the director. A great report. Everything went surprisingly very, very well with adding the third year, which everybody was concerned about as a transition. It took a lot of navigating. And as a former member of the academic advisory board on that, I can tell you to see it come to fruition and work as nicely as it did. We were very pleased about that. And they are going to work this year on developing our favorite thing, a new strategic plan. So they will involve the governing board and maybe a subcommittee to continue on and talk about growth. Not necessarily adding more grade levels and more classes, because of our capacity is pretty limited on what we can do. But what does that mean as far as offerings, and equity was brought up as a big issue in other school districts, and even here, our subgroup population may look a lot different, but we still have those equity issues as well to always look at. So those are some items for future perusal by that committee.
And there's going to be a chili.
Oh yes, and the chili cook-off is happening this Saturday, and Dave Nazer is bringing an incredible group of kids, and we may actually beat Buck here in the trivia contest for once. So exciting. Usually, that's because it's usually me and a bunch of adults sitting around, and I'm like, oh god. So I'm psyched. We're sending them. We're sending the A team. So see how that goes.
All right, thank you. VSBA recognition. I guess I don't know your job, that is that you.
I would like to recognize board members and their participation in the VSBA Academy programs. So we'll back up the podium.
Yeah, so here's how this works.
No, it's very special.
Okay, it's very special. Okay.
And it's based on how many points you earn, and within it could be a year or 2 year period, and it's up there. So I'm going to call.
Is that a calendar year or school year, or do you know?
Board year.
It's a board year, so it's probably January to December.
Yeah, and but it looks like if you, it's in a 2-year period, is what I can tell there. So
Okay.
Well, there
you
was a
have
board,
to-
there was a 2-year period for 2 board members at one time.
Yeah.
Did you get-
So the first one I would like to present to Mr. Mills, if you'll come up, I have a certificate for you, and it's an award of recognition.
Well done.
Okay, Ms. Meyer, if you'll come up, I'm going to present an award of recognition to you also.
I think it's because we showed up at the conference.
Yeah, good.
So
That's good.
every time we show up at some ESBA event, we improve.
Reason not to go.
Okay, Mr. Grove, now you're receiving an award of achievement, and you get a pen. Thank you. Oh, and we do have something else for you. Brandon Burley got you all some shirts, some really nice shirts. So, really long sleeve, really nice.
You are getting a shirt. There you go.
Really
You're
nice.
bad mouth.
This is
You're
Mrs.
bad mouthing your
Johnson.
certificate.
Now,
I wouldn't
Mrs.
give you a
Johnson.
shirt.
about it now, because
Thank you.
Extra large.
that's not me.
Well, you can take
I
it
got
out.
large.
We can try them all on
I think I got the word.
Large, yeah.
Wow, that's fancy. Wow.
Chris, this is
We're up to the volleyball game.
There you go. Wear them to the games. Wear them outside. Long sleeves.
ESBA conference.
These are nice
All
words.
remaining fall events.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to not have to wear a tie.
That's true.
That's a good way to get out.
That's right.
All right. All right. The policy updates were the ones that we had last month.
Correct.
We had all month to review them, and we're going to vote on them tonight. Right?
Not individual.
No, that's individual.
You're pleased now.
As a
Do your
slate.
homework.
Are you gonna vote on
As a
them
slate.
individually or as a group?
No. We don't vote individually. There are,
About
15 or 18.
I read on your last one.
Good job.
I'm going to estimate there's like 50 of these.
Now, most of them are just wording, changes and verbiage. You'll see that, which are the easy ones. There was one new, we found out what that exhibit, thank you. There was an exhibit of a regulation that you can implement for the policy. It said new policy. Ours was very, very close. We'll just have to modify it with a couple of additional, yes. Yes, and then the smoking policy that Y Street has worked on. So that's
And are we gonna talk about the smoking policy or?
We can. Which one was that one again? What's the letter on it?
It's down there, GBEC, I think.
One, no,
It's
it's maybe
several.
the
It's
second,
three different
second
ones.
Lack of
one
free.
or something, because the other ones were other school policies.
It's
GBEC, KGB, and KGC. That is it.
all right. So this would be the time for us to talk about these before we're going to move on after this to public comment, and then we'll vote. So now's the time to talk about these. Are there any changes? Any questions?
Well, I thought we were gonna go with a simpler version that we could actually enforce.
Which we did, I thought.
Is that, I thought this was, maybe we
We
did.
took everything out that had to do with other schools,
Are you
other
in
properties off campus.
KGB, is that where you are?
Well,
KGB.
there's, and then any modification to the original VSBA, we talked about that last time, then you're no longer under their purview for any coverage should it be contested. And that was the question that you all had last time. So that's why this is a slight modification from the VSBA policy. So if you were to adopt and someone would contest something you've done, that's where you no longer fall
That's where
under
we
VSBA.
deviate from the norm.
True.
All of their policies are with state regulations.
And Y Street does work very, very hard with the legal counsel as well to make sure it would comply. It's just not VSBA. That would be your entity for legal concerns. So.
Any other questions or comments? All right. I thought we had corrected that. All right. Very good. We're going to move on. And we'll be voting on those shortly. This time, though, we'll have public comment. Anybody like to speak to the board this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Comment about the 8th grade academy as a parent of a future 8th grader. I think it's a wonderful program, and it gives the students somebody to go to. For a lot of students who don't have that in their lives, with the peer mentoring, it gives them a good opportunity for that.
Is this your 8th grader?
Like he's 7th grade at the moment.
Yeah.
He's future 8th grade.
Yeah. Do they already know their mentors? Already? Not yet.
Yeah, he'll be in 8th grade next year.
8th grade next year.
Well, you'll be in the step up program in the spring.
Right. At the end of
Right,
this
so
year,
you'll get started with that.
And Riverside also is the classmates.
Oh.
Can I ask for your name just so I can record?
Oh, Katrine McKelvey.
Katrine.
McKelvey,
Yeah.
Jackson District.
No. Yeah, Avisville, yeah.
Jackson District. Anybody else? All right, moving on to action items. Is there a motion to approve the Title IV grant as presented this evening?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion, Mr. Grove, second. Mr. Rubin. But, you know, I keep trying to call people by the first name. It's not what I'm supposed to do. And I try to remember what the last name is. I'm kind of stuck somewhere. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So order, is there a motion to approve the policy updates? And
So moved.
motion, Ms. Johnson. Second. We have a second, Ms. Meyer. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Is there a motion to approve the calendar modification? So moved. We have a motion, Mr. Rubin.
Second.
Second, Ms. Johnson. Any other discussion? Thanks, so we're the use of time. Good idea. Thank you for doing that. And the children, thank you.
Yes.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Is there any new business? Our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is November the 14th at 6:30 p.m. And at this time, we're about to go into closed session. Let me tell you, this is going to roll. There'll be a motion to take us into closed session. That still happens in open session. As soon as we have the motion carried, we will take a short recess so everybody can either go home or go to the hallway and wait for us to finish. We will be done in closed session in approximately
Half an hour.
Half an hour. At which time we will come out of closed session, open the doors, and we'll yell, "Hear ye, hear ye." And then what will have happened by then is we will have taken a motion to come out of closed session. We'll be back in open session, and the only thing you'll witness at that point is the things that are in 11.1, which is our certification, 11.2, where we take action on the personnel report, and then we adjourn. all of those things. 11.1, 11.2, and 12.1 are open session things. So if you choose to wait, you'll get to see the conclusion of the meeting and any closing action items that we predict will happen. If you choose to go home, that's what you'll miss, and you can read about it in the paper.
Or you can watch it on TV.
Or you can watch it on TV if Luke stays up. All right, that's where we're at. Do we have the motion? Yes, Ms. Johnson.
I move that the board convene in closed session for the following purpose: to discuss and consider the appointment of staff for coaching, classified and professional positions, and adoption of the superintendent's evaluation matrix and goals pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2-2.2-3711A1.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We have a motion from Ms. Johnson, second Mr. Grove. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. And the board has been in closed session, and we are going to adjourn, not adjourn. We're going to recess while we're going to wait for us outside.